was supposed to be a power move. It all started with Trump's tariff on imported steel and aluminum, meant to shield American factories, revive Rust Belt jobs, and flex U.S. economic muscle. But Canada? They didn't just shrug it off. They struck back with precision, zeroing in on American oil and gas, the very backbone of U.S. energy exports. They hiked export duties, delayed permits, and quietly pulled strings behind key infrastructure deals. This wasn't random. It was a calculated strike at the heart of U.S. refineries that rely heavily on cheap Canadian supply. Almost overnight, shipments slowed, markets trembled, and in Washington, panic started to creep in. What was supposed to be an America First policy sparked a global energy backlash, and the fuse was officially lit. First, Canada made its move. They began halting crude oil deals with U.S. refineries, no warning, no room for negotiation. Instead of sending barrels south to America, they rerouted them across the Atlantic. Europe was ready, waiting, and willing to pay. And back in the U.S., refineries, especially in the Midwest, started feeling the heat. Facilities in Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois that depended on Canadian crude began scrambling for alternatives. Production costs soared, supply chains cracked, gasoline prices at the pump ticked up fast, and still Trump didn't blink. He doubled down on protectionism, insisting the pain was temporary. But halfway across the globe, Qatar was watching. Qatar dropped, and unlike the U.S., they saw opportunity in the chaos. They accelerated LNG shipments to Europe, cutting long-term deals, locking in buyers who once depended on North American fuel. They invested in new terminals, scaled up production, and made sure Europe had no reason to look back west. While America was fighting its neighbors, Qatar was building new alliances, cementing itself as the go-to energy giant in a world desperate for stability. And with each passing week, U.S. influence in the global energy market got a little smaller. Canada didn't waste time. With American doors closing, they pushed hard into Europe, fierce, focused, and fast. They cut red tape, flew diplomats overseas, and sold themselves as the stable democratic alternative to Russian gas. Then came the knockout punch, the LNG Canada project, a massive $40 billion investment backed by Shell, Petronas, and others, designed to turn Canada's Pacific coast into a launch pad for global energy dominance. Massive pipelines cut through British Columbia. Liquefaction terminals sprang up like steel giants, and tankers lined up ready to carry Canadian LNG to Europe and Asia. The message was clear. Canada wasn't waiting for Washington to change its mind. It was going global. Back in the U.S., the story was different and darker. Refineries began shutting down or slashing output. Some couldn't afford the rising costs. Others simply couldn't source enough crude. Then the Stellantis plant in Belvidere, Illinois, announced a complete halt. The official reason? Supply chain disruptions. But insiders pointed to one root cause: energy instability. Factories can't run on uncertainty, and families can't run on 6 a gallon gas. All while Trump stayed quiet, no plan, no pivot, just silence. And that silence echoed across the country, louder than words ever could. While America stumbled through its tariff mess, Qatar was moving like a chess grandmaster, 3 steps ahead. They wasted no time. First, they inked massive LNG deals with China, not 5-year handshakes, 27-year commitments. Then came Germany and Italy, both desperate to fill the hole left by Russian gas. Qatar delivered. Fast, cheap, and stable. And just when everyone thought they'd peaked, Qatar dropped the bomb. The largest LNG expansion in human history. Northfield East and Northfield South, multi-billion-dollar mega projects, aimed at doubling their output by the early 2030s. State-of-the-art terminals, new shipping fleets, and an army of engineers working around the clock. Meanwhile, U.S. LNG projects stuck in limbo. Environmental lawsuits, political deadlock, and local protests have paused key projects from Louisiana to Texas. Federal reviews drag on, permits get delayed, and investors are pulling out, fast. Even ExxonMobil and Chevron have started redirecting attention overseas, because in the current climate, it's easier to build a terminal in Mozambique than in the U.S. Qatar, meanwhile, is locking in long-term buyers and securing influence from Brussels to Beijing, And with every deal signed, they edge America out of the energy conversation. The irony? While Trump pushed tariffs to put America first, Qatar quietly put America last without firing a single shot. Today, if Europe needs gas, they're not dialing Washington. They're calling Doha. Qatar's LNG tankers are now docking in every major European port. From Hamburg to Naples, they're supplying the heat in winter, the electricity in summer, and the leverage at every negotiation. Europe doesn't just prefer Qatar, they rely on it. And Canada, they're not waiting around either. With Europe getting cozy with Qatar, Canada turned to the Pacific. Japan, South Korea, and India are now top priorities. Diplomatic missions, energy conferences, and trade deals, all moving faster than ever before. Meanwhile, American companies are stuck in a loop. They show up to negotiations only to get undercut by countries with stronger infrastructure and fewer political strings. They offer deals, but the buyers say, Qatar gives us 27 years, what can you promise? And the answer? Silence. Again, refineries are scaling back, export terminals are stalled, and policymakers are busy arguing over who's to blame instead of how to fix it. Tariffs gave politicians a quick headline, a podium moment. But headlines don't move ships, and tariffs don't build pipelines. Power on the global stage isn't about tough talk. It's about reliability. It's about who can deliver gas on time at scale without drama. Right now, that's not America, it's Qatar and Canada. Two nations that played the long game while the U.S. played politics. The result? A total rebalancing of energy power. And Washington's watching from the sidelines, while the world moves on without them. The world isn't waiting. It's racing ahead. Canada and Qatar, they're not just exporting energy, they're exporting influence. They've turned pipelines into power moves, LNG tankers into diplomacy tools, and every deal they sign without the U.S. in the room chips away at America's leverage. Europe's energy market, wide open. But the U.S. isn't in the fast lane, not anymore. Environmental regulations, permit delays, tariff wars. It's all created a bottleneck that's choking progress while competitors scale at record speed. Qatar just locked down deals for nearly 3 decades. Canada's LNG ports are breaking ground faster than Congress can even vote. And the U.S. still talking about the past while the rest of the world is building the future. This isn't about Trump anymore. It's not about one man, one tariff, or one administration. It's about a system that's slow to adapt and a market that doesn't wait. Because while the U.S. was flexing with tariffs, others were building trust. While America was doubling down on isolation, others were doubling exports. Now, global alliances have shifted. Power has new players, and America's energy throne empty for now. So we're left with one brutal question. Was it worth it? All of this for a 10% tariff? Was Trump bold or reckless? Let me know in the comments, don't hold back. I'm reading every take. And hey, if you're tired of clickbait headlines and sugar-coated news, hit that subscribe button. This channel's about cutting through the noise, no fluff, no spin. Just raw facts, bold analysis, and the fallout that matters. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next power play. Because in today's world, energy is politics and politics is everything.